Emily Ross, LPC. Thanks for checking in today. I'm here with one of my favorite people in the universe, my mentor and friend, Marion. And we were thinking about how to introduce the way we do things, and it's kind of difficult because I think we do, and connected on the fact that we do therapy different, or healing different than most other practitioners that we know. And so to find her was so amazing because it affirmed for me I was doing it right, because I was afraid of that.
Right.
But we do it really intuitively. And so when we were sitting down to think about, well, how do we explain what we do? We can't unless there's a human involved,
Right.
Because we don't know until the human shows up.
Right.
Because it's going to be different every time. And so it's kind of and we've decided to call it, when we talk, intuitive therapy, because that's what it is, really. And I think we get frightened to say that from our education, because
Right.
we're not supposed to. It's supposed to be fact-based.
Right.
And so it gets scary to say that. So I was like, I met her this morning, I was like, can I say that? Is it okay?
And I'm
So-
like, yeah.
She's not as scared as I am. I think her kidney meridian's fine. So today we're gonna demonstrate. She's gonna demonstrate on me some different tools than talk therapy that
Complementary therapy is what I call it, and it's Reiki. It's just a little bit different, but it's still something that helps people reduce their stress level, helps people reduce their anxiety, other different things that just help healing in complement to the talk therapy.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a sense of, like, when you meet with somebody who you're like, oh, that would be beneficial for them?
Usually after a little bit.
After a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I need to get to know them a little bit just to kind of see if that is something that would be beneficial to them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what else do I want to know? I know everything about her, so I need questions from you guys. Well, I don't know everything about her. That's a little bit much. So that, and then are you going to do some access bars? Do you want to talk about what those are?
So access bars is 32 points on the head, and I'm not going to do a true access bars cycle, but I will incorporate some of that with the Reiki today. We'll just see
where it
goes.
Do you want to explain what Reiki is? I feel like everybody knows that already, but maybe
So
they don't.
it's energy work. Basically, what I do is I'll start out and we'll kind of just get comfortable. We'll do a scan. We will, in the scan, I'll feel for different spots, and I think depending on who is doing it, they feel different things. For me, I feel heat on somebody normally, and my hands tend to stay very cold, so the person
That's
tends
very
to
true.
pick up on that. And then what I'll do is I'll just spend some time with whatever parts feel hot.
Mm-hmm.
Just light touch.
Mm-hmm.
And it varies how long you leave your hands on, but once again, it's that intuitive thing. I just sort of sit and when it feels done,
Mm-hmm.
I release it and we move on to the next spot. And sometimes it can be 20 minutes, sometimes it can be, I mean, you can make it as long as you want, but for the most part, I just kind of let it happen how it needs to happen.
And what is the heat? What is that? Is it trapped emotion?
It's usually trapped emotion, and sometimes it's just like muscles, like a sore spot in the body.
Mm-hmm.
My husband has back problems, and so a lot of times I'll do Reiki on him, and he loves it because it releases some of that just tension and tightness in his back.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're doing that, can you get a sense of what emotion it is that's trapped?
I haven't done a whole lot of that, putting two and two together, because I'm more about the touch and the feeling. And if it's an emotion that needs to be released, I feel like it's just releasing. Like it's not. I don't need to pinpoint what it is, because it's a hot spot on somebody that. And as I say, it can be cool to some practitioners. It can be maybe tingly to some practitioners. It just depends. But for me, it's definitely hot.
Do you want to explain what you're feeling?
So I'm just kind of doing some grounding work right now. Just settling in and me getting a feel for sort of you and what's happening.
Is my energy chaotic?
No.
Really?
No, it's pretty calm actually.
Wow.
Your energy in your head though is very tingly today.
Like
Like I
excited,
can feel it in my hands.
but not bad chaos.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna scan you now.
Mhm.
And it's a very simple, I'm just going above your body a little bit, just looking for what I was saying, those hot spots.
So it's reciprocal too, because I feel your energy some places.
Okay.
Is that normal?
I'd say it's normal for you. If somebody can't feel energy, they're probably not going to, you know what I'm
They
saying?
won't notice it.
They won't notice that that's what it is.
Can you tell where I feel it? Does your energy notice that my energy notices? No.
Are you comfortable with me touching your face? Okay. Some people are not, so I asked that
Oh,
question.
well, thank you for asking.
Okay. Now, so I've felt some spots along the way, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my hands on,
Okay.
if that's all right with you, gently, and then see what happens.
Okay.
So.
Oh, so
And
that's
sometimes-
interesting. That's where I felt your energy.
It's right in here.
Yeah, but like in a good way, I felt it. Like like that knowing feeling. We'll have to talk about that knowing feeling.
My hands, for a lot of people, they say they're cold.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay. And sometimes I'll just, the hot spot can be sort of a little bit bigger, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I'll just have to work my hands around and get a feel for, and just like everything else I do in my life, I don't quite do it exactly by the book because of that intuitive piece of things. I just go, okay, let's just get going, whatever needs to get going.
So are you like pulling the heat out? Is that kind of what it is? Like your energy is pulling the heat out?
I guess yes, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I kind of keep my hands on until I don't feel as much heat anymore.
And you don't have to think anything consciously. It's the energy doing it. You don't have to sit there and think, pull this out.
No.
It's not like you just.
Literally, I just use my hands, and it's kind of interesting, and I don't know if this is true for everybody, but the center of my hands, it's kind of bizarre. That's where I feel the heat, but I also get tingles. And then once that tingly kind of piece sort of settles down, I kind of go, okay, well, let's move on a little bit.
That's how you know. It's like the tingle's like, okay, you're done. I love it.
It's fun to do. And sometimes, it varies. I want to go back to your head, though, because there was a little bit of something going on there. It's kind of crazy.
I always wonder how my energy is experienced, you know? That is so soothing. And I do notice the cold a little bit there, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Okay. It's interesting that I was drawn to your head. And I don't ever really know exactly where I'm going to be drawn either. It just depends.
I wonder what you think the energy is. Because you said it wasn't chaotic, which I'm kind of used to. But it's like, I keep saying kinetic now, because it's like energetic, but not bad.
Right.
Is that kind of what it feels like?
And it's calmer than normal, really.
Is it? That's so good. I've been working so hard on calmer. It's nice to hear it's working.
And there's actually a spot sort of over in here.
So when you worked over here, it
Uh-huh.
pushed over there.
Okay.
That happened with Ann too, like it would push, but it would bounce back.
Interesting.
But I felt it kind of,
Crawl over there a little bit.
it's like it tries to hide. That's what I think. It's like, I don't really want to be released yet.
So like this area right here is more emotional kind of stuff.
Which makes sense for me, if you know me. Like, I don't love being in my emotions.
Right.
And so there's one that I think is trying to hide, and I bet it's fear, because my kidney meridian comes up a little bit unsettled here lately. So I bet it's that. I bet it's fear, and it's like, no, don't take me yet. I'm not ready to shift yet.
Right.
I don't know how to help her.
Yeah, because there's some talking going on. That's when I say the tingly.
They're like, yeah, they're trying to.
Uh-huh.
And I can feel that all the way down. We should tell you, people don't usually talk like this. We're just trying to explain the process so you get it. But like, I can feel that energy all the way down, and it's very comfortable. Like, it doesn't hurt. It just feels like I can feel the energy.
And the other thing to be mindful of this is, you're right. I mean, some people like to talk. I personally, when I'm having it done, I don't like to talk. But you're right, just for explaining reasons. But the other thing to be aware of is sometimes what I've had people say is that it will get a little intense afterwards, but then all of a sudden it just releases.
Yes, yes.
So,
I really suggest people, like, when they do any of this kind of energy stuff, even the kinesthesiology, to take the rest of the day off, because it doesn't release all right then. It kind of releases all day long, and you just drink water and relax and self-care
and a little bit of salt, actually, is what I've found, is
I'm
that
not hearing
add a little bit of salt to that. So.
So I cough when I get nervous. So that's what that was.
What this is. There's some heat in your knee.
In my knee?
Right in here. And as I say, sometimes it's simply muscle kind of stuff.
I would think that if I've been running, I think it's moving forward. Stuck moving, you know? Or my kidney meridian runs up like that. And when it gets stuck, it starts to stick on this side. So I wonder if it could be that too.
Yeah.
I have a lot of trouble noticing fear as an emotion. I have like chronic trauma, and so fear doesn't register in my mind as an emotion. And the way I can learn about that I'm afraid of something is through my body, because I don't want the emotion to stick, because it causes chaos and my responses start changing, and I don't know why on an emotional level. So I stay connected to my body this way, and so that's what you're hearing me talk through. It's a different kind of talk therapy, just about the emotion.
Right. Right. And sometimes you don't even have to talk about it. Sometimes it's just the awareness of it, because that's what I've discovered with a lot of people, is if they can just be aware of it, then they can help themselves make changes to it.
I say that emotions are like ghosts. They just want to be acknowledged, and you have to acknowledge the correct emotion. And when you do, it just releases. It just wanted you to know what was there.
Right. I don't know a whole lot about reflexology, but I do know that it's a pretty true thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting sometimes even I'll pick up heat in the bottom of someone's foot and it doesn't necessarily relate to their feet. It
Mhm.
relates to certain
Like an organ.
Mhm.
Our body's always trying to tell us things about our mind and our spirit. And when you learn how to notice those, it's so beneficial for healing.
Absolutely.
Like, I have no idea what I'm afraid of right now. Actually, I do, but only because somebody told me I was afraid. So I was like, oh, what could it be? And then I backtrack out of it.
So then we challenge ourselves. Is that your hype man talking, or
Yeah, who's saying that?
who's saying that?
Yep, that's true. That's what we do. That's what we do. But what we don't do is argue with ourselves. If I'm afraid, I'm afraid. I don't have to fight that. Like, it's okay, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of a lot. Trauma does that to you. My central nervous system is always ready to show up.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do we have to fight about this? Is it kind of that side too?
There's kind of a hot spot right here. And it could be, as I say, just muscles.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting with you in particular. Some people, I don't get as much of the tingly. It's just more of the heat. But the tingly, and I keep saying tingly because that's the only way I can describe it. It's like an energy in the middle of the palm of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And with you, the heat is not as intense as it is for some people. But the tingly is much more intense, which is kind of interesting.
I wonder if it's because I try not to, I love having this done. I don't like using it. I wonder if it's our energies, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of, as I say, it's sort of interesting to me. So with you, I'm learning, because this is the first time we've done this.
It is.
That I need to be more aware of the tingling
Instead of
the heat. I mean, the heat's there, but more of the
tingling.
It's kind of interesting.
I'm always different, huh?
Aren't we all? All right, we're gonna go here one more time. So there's still a little heat there. So
Yeah, weird about this. And better though. And I just love how this feels. Like, I like the energy feeling of it.
I find it's very relaxing.
It's very soothing and comforting. Like, if I had to tell you my emotions right now, even though we're talking about my fear and this and that, I feel so calm and relaxed and, like, safe is a weird word, but, like, cared for, I guess. Like, I feel enveloped in, like, just love and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helps even when you're not ready for that emotional piece, I think. I think it's a good way to get closer to the emotional piece because you can connect with emotion without feeling the dread.
Exactly.
And it pairs it with the calmness.
And I think one point to make with that is I think a lot of times it depends on how your energy is mixing with the person doing it. Because I know I've had a massage with somebody before, years ago, and it was like I never got that peaceful feeling. It was like I just couldn't relax the whole time, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
And I think that is always happening, like in talk therapy and this and everything. And
it's you either have a connection or you don't.
And to honor that. And eventually, if you pursue a healing path, you start to recognize the why behind it. I feel like it's so important to go with your intuition anyways.
And it's okay if it's not a good fit.
It really
doesn't,
is.
you know, I mean, not everybody's energies go together.
Right. And healthy people, like healthy healed people don't get insulted by that. Like I say that in therapy all the time. Like if you don't feel like there's a connection, it's okay for you to hold out for that, because that's how you're gonna heal. It doesn't hurt my feelings, it doesn't, I want you to heal. And that's a huge piece of that. So
exactly.
So you don't have to worry about hurting people's feelings about that.
Especially in the healing process, because it's your journey.
Right.
And when you're on your journey, you get to choose what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yes. Including like which modalities work better for you and don't. So if you're not comfortable with like an energy healing, you don't have to do that. You don't have to start there. You don't have to ever end up there. You get to pick.
No. Exactly.
And your soul will tell you which ones
exactly
it needs. I need all of them. My soul's my poor little soul.
We're gonna do one more thing here. I felt a little bit of heat on his hand earlier.
I've been finding myself holding them like, what's wrong, Bubba? It's that releasing system. I think it's all tied together. There's something I'm trying not to release.
It'll happen. Do you feel that though?
Not like I did on my abdomen. I think it's pretty stuck. Like it's pretty stagnant.
It's pretty tingly.
Is it? I don't feel any of that the way I did in my stomach.
Okay. It's not ready to let loose totally and completely.
It's like so comforting and comfortable, but it's not, I don't feel the movement.
And it could be just, so think about your throat, and you do a lot of speaking, and you do a lot of interacting with people and stuff. And so what I found when somebody does stuff on my throat, it's more about just relaxing it enough to give it permission to continue to do its job.
Okay.
Because our world is very much about using our voice.
And healing is very much about using your voice.
So as I say, sometimes it's not even about necessarily releasing something, it's relaxing it enough to continue its job.
That feels more comfortable. I felt a little bit of energy from that. It's like you're not trying to get rid of me, you're just trying to settle me down.
Because it's a very, like I say, it's a big part of what we do.
I had somebody explain it once that what's the one under that, your heart chakra? That's so overactive for me, so heightened for me that it has to pull energy from my throat and the one under it.
Right.
And those do rev lower.
Okay.
So her suggestion was balance, but I mean, I'm a therapist, I hear, like I don't know how to.
You hear, but the challenge is that you hear a lot of emotion. And so where do we process emotion in our hearts? A lot of times.
Yeah, it's like
and so, but then we're speaking also. So the two of them, I mean, there's just, sometimes it's even, I feel like it's a conflict a little bit in the sense of that, you know, I'm feeling all of this, but I can't show my person that I'm feeling what they're feeling. So that I'm having to speak in a way that doesn't show that.
That doesn't reflect that. Yeah, it is complicated.
So, and that's why I think these complementary therapies are so important. All right, I'm gonna go right here, and then.
I think this is my favorite.
All right, how do you feel?
I feel so good and relaxed, but like energized at the same time, if that makes any sense.
And at some point in time,
This was fabulous. Do you want to show access bars or no?
Well, believe it or not, that's kind of what I've been doing on your head.
Oh, really? I do believe that. I really do.
So not in a formal kind of way, but just in the way of so the 32 points on the head, and there's several different points in it, and a true access bar session is going to take an hour because of the way it works, and it's basically releasing control, releasing
boy. I just had a visceral response to that. I was like, we're not, my stomach was like, we are not, in fact, doing that.
Drawing in love, drawing in compassion, I mean, like
we're not doing
like
that.
There are literally 32 different points on your head that these different things relate to, and I'm still that's a work in progress for me because the Reiki I feel like the Reiki comes more natural to me, whereas the access bar you're there's certain points on the head that you're touching and it does amazing work, but I always usually have my little sheet with me to make sure that I'm still getting at the right place. So as I say, the Reiki I feel like comes more natural, and then I incorporate some of the points into the head depending on wherever I'm drawn to.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to say to people is when you're an intuitive healer, sometimes you don't know why you're doing what and how to explain it. And I found myself in sessions when I try to think too much intellectually, I completely ruin the process, and it ends up feeling contrived, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't flow right.
I feel like when I know exactly what you're talking about. I get two in my head or two in a book instead of letting it be natural.
Right.
And so what happens, I feel like at the end of it, if I'm going to do a report card on my session, it doesn't feel as successful as letting it manifest the way it needs to.
Right. And so I don't love to have interns because I don't know how to explain what I do, but I've been working on that. And one of the things I say is when you go in there, stop thinking and connect with the human.
Absolutely.
Like however you do that, connect with the human. Because truly what we're doing is meeting them in their pain. And then once we meet them there and can see what that pain is like, we can help show them the way out of that. And it's just different every time.
Right.
So I can't be like, this is what we're going to do in this session. Like, I just can't. I don't know.
Right, exactly. I don't always know. And even if I thought about it in my head and processed it and thought, okay, this is the direct, usually it never goes the direction I think it's going to go.
Right. Like you've got to take your thinking brain out of it, out of the healing process completely, I think.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. Is there questions that you can think of that we should help people understand, or should we wait for questions and see what people
say? See what people
what
ask.
People
I
need
mean,
more.
I can't come up with anything in particular.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing it.
It feels right for everybody. It will feel right.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time on Emily Ross LPC. Thank you so much. That was great.